Welcome back. Today we're looking at a submission from Metaball Studios, Dragon Size Comparison 3D Animation.
Right, and it's a fascinating one because what we have is a great visual concept, but the script is literally just 4 words. So, see, so you.
Exactly. So our goal is to help turn this, what is essentially a silent demo, into a really compelling narrated experience.
Let's jump right in then.
A visual size comparison, no matter how good the 3D models are, really falls flat without a strong verbal script to turn it from a lineup into a story.
And I want to zero in on those 4 words. So see, so you. That's not just a placeholder, you know? It's a symptom of a vacuum.
A vacuum?
Yeah, a vacuum in the concept. It tells me the creator is banking 100% on the visuals doing all the work. And in this genre, that's a fatal mistake.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a sec. If the models are amazing, and we know their work, they usually are, why can't they stand alone? Isn't show don't tell the golden rule?
It is, but that rule applies more to, like, emotional subtext in a film, not raw data. The problem here is what I'd call the glaze-over effect.
Glaze-over?
Yeah. Without a narrative hook, the brain just processes the images as wallpaper. It's passive. To fix it, you need a script that runs parallel to the visuals, giving you little factoids or bits of lore for each dragon.
So you're saying the script's job is to tell the brain what to look for?
Exactly. You have to bridge that gap between the eye and the mind. Otherwise, people just stare at the center of the screen until the video ends.
So it's less like a silent art gallery and more of a guided tour.
Precisely. Instead of silence or some, generic music, imagine the audio is actively guiding your eye. So for the smallest dragon, the script doesn't just stay quiet. It says, here's our smallest, roughly the size of a house cat.
Okay.
And then, bam, you hit them with the contrast. Now look at this mid-tier beast. It rivals a commercial airliner in length. You're forcing a comparison.
You're giving the viewer's brain a job to do.
You are. You're turning them from a spectator into an analyst. You use the screen time to drop these little mental hooks. Instead of just a model floating by, you say, note the tail here. Its length alone exceeds the depth of the Mariana Trench.
Ah, I see. That's a measurement that sticks with you.
It sticks. It turns a passive viewing into active learning. That's the difference between someone watching for 30 seconds and watching the whole thing.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move on. To make a size comparison really impactful, you have to ground these huge abstract dimensions in a relatable human reference point.
And this is where that word you from the transcript comes in. It's just dangling there, but it's actually the key to the whole thing.
How so?
Well, right now, the concept seems to use what we'd call the God view.
Wait, can you define that for people who might not know? What's the God view and why is it a problem?
It's a detached floating camera. You're looking at everything from a distance, like looking at New York City from a plane window. The Empire State Building looks like a toy.
It sterilizes the scale.
It completely sterilizes the scale. The weakness is that the viewer doesn't feel the awe or the terror because they're floating a mile away. Safe.
So the suggestion is to bring that camera right down to ground level.
Yes, and we need to actually use that word, you. Make the viewer the main unit of measurement.
So what would that sound like?
I'd open the script with something really direct, like, to understand how massive these beasts are, we need to start with you. And then visually, you put a human silhouette, maybe labeled you, right next to the first dragon's claw.
I like that. It immediately changes the perspective from looking at to standing next to. But here's the problem I see. Once we get to the planet-sized dragons, that little human silhouette is going to be less than a pixel.
Right. And that's where the script has to take over from the visuals. You keep calling back to you in the narration. As you get to the medium ones, the script says, at this stage, you are no bigger than this dragon's tooth.
So the script does the work the pixels can't anymore.
It forces the imagination to do the work. When you get to the really huge ones, the line becomes, this dragon could swallow you whole without even chewing. It stops being a math problem and starts being a survival scenario.
It creates a sense of vertigo.
Exactly. It carries the emotional weight. You're transforming you from the master of the scene to a completely insignificant detail, which is the kind of cosmic awe you want.
A comparison video also needs a really logical structure to stop the viewer from getting, desensitized to the size.
Let's look at that middle word, see. Just seeing a linear progression of models, it gets boring fast. It's a huge weakness in the pacing.
You're talking about scale fatigue?
Scale fatigue, absolutely. After the 10th big dragon, the 11th one doesn't even feel impressive anymore. Your brain has normalized big. There's no break in the flow to let the magnitude really sink in.
So how do you break up that monotony? If you stop the flow, don't you risk people just clicking away?
You don't stop it, you structure it. You build it in chapters or tiers. Instead of a continuous stream, you group them into, let's say, weight classes.
Give me an example.
Okay, you could call the first group the pet class for the small words. Then you transition to the livestock class for the ones big enough to eat sheep. And you finish with the kaiju class.
Ha, I like that. So the names themselves become little mental checkpoints for the viewer.
They do, but you can also put what I'd call a palate cleanser between the tiers, a little bit of info to reset their brains.
I'm worried that sounds like a lecture. And now for some math.
It's all in the framing. You don't say, here's a physics lesson. You say, before we see the true giants, you have to understand that at this size, biology itself starts to break.
Ooh, that's a good hook.
Then you drop a punchy fact about, say, the square cube law. As we move to the next tier, remember, if you double a dragon's size, its weight multiplies by 8.
So you're raising the stakes. You're basically telling the audience that what they're about to see shouldn't even be able to exist.
Exactly. It builds anticipation. It resets their sense of scale. Then when you finally reveal that next massive dragon, the impact is so much bigger. It creates a rhythm for the whole piece.
Okay, final point. The title Dragons is just too broad. It needs specific parameters to manage viewer expectations.
This is a subtle one, but it's so important. The title is just dragons. In this world, that's an incredibly loaded term.
People have very strong opinions on what is and isn't a dragon.
They really do. And if their favorite isn't included, or if you include something they don't consider a true dragon, they feel let down. The current ambiguity is a weakness. Are we talking wyverns, drakes?
I can already see the comments section. Actually, that's a wyvern because it only has 2 legs. It's a minefield.
It's a total minefield. You lose credibility if you don't get in front of that. So the suggestion is simple. Add a framing device right at the start of the script.
Set the ground rules.
You have to. You add a disclaimer. For this comparison, we're looking at distinct biological dragons, and we're excluding wyverns or drakes. That one sentence saves you 1,000 angry comments.
Or you could define it by the source material, I suppose.
Right. That's another great way to do it. This comparison focuses strictly on dragons from Western cinema or from video games. By narrowing the scope, you actually make the content feel stronger and more definitive for that niche.
And that helps with the narrative flow we were just talking about.
Totally. If you have like Puff the Magic Dragon next to King Ghidorah without explaining why they're in the same video, it just feels like a random mess.
A messy toy box.
A messy toy box, exactly. But if the script says, we're exploring the full spectrum of dragons, from the whimsical to the catastrophic, then that juxtaposition suddenly makes perfect sense. The script creates the logic.
It turns the creator from just an uploader into a curator.
That's the perfect word for it, a curator.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Let's summarize the key actions for Metaball Studios to really elevate this project.
Sounds good.
First, and this is the big one, write an actual script that gives context to the vision. That so see, so you placeholder needs to become narration that gives facts and lore.
Don't let the audience's eyes glaze over.
Second, use that idea of you to ground the scale. Make the viewer the unit of measurement, both with a visual silhouette and by addressing them directly in the script.
You are the size of this dragon's tooth. Make it personal.
Third, structure the comparison in tiers to control the pacing. Use chapters like the pet class and the kaiju class, and use those transitions to reset the viewer's sense of scale.
And fight off that scale fatigue.
And finally, define the scope of dragons. Right at the beginning, tell the audience what's in, what's out, and why. Manage their expectations.
Avoid the taxonomy bores.
We would honestly love to see how this project evolves. Metaball Studios, if you're listening, rewrite that script, incorporate these ideas, and please submit it again for a follow-up.
Yeah, I really want to see how you handle that kaiju class transition.
That's it for this critique. Keep creating.